Buenas and half a day. The Committee on Environment, Revenue and Taxation, Labor Procurement, Statistics, Research and Planning is calling this public hearing to order on Tuesday, October 29, 2024. The time is now 2:16 p.m. In compliance with open government law, notices of today's hearing were broadcasted on KUEM, provided via email to senators, stakeholders, and the local media, and posted to the Government of Guam Public Notices website on Tuesday, October 22nd for the 5-day notice, and Sunday, October 27th for the 48-hour notice. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that are here today, Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Telo Taitague, and Senator Roy Kanata. Thank you for being here. The purpose of today's public hearing is to hear testimony on Bill 102-37 COR, sponsored by myself, Senators Joanne Brown, Telo T. Taitague, Chris Barnett, and Christopher M. Dueñas. It's an act to add a new Article 2 to Chapter 2, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to reporting requirements on the use of unclassified employment. Originally, we did also schedule Bill 362-37, which was voted on during the emergency session and passed by this body. So as a reminder, the rules of conduct for today's public hearing, those who called will be in order beginning with government agencies, followed by those that confirm in advance with my office by Friday, October 25th, and then those who have signed up on the sign-in sheet. If providing oral testimony, please state your name, organization, and position if relevant for record-keeping purposes. Senators will be given an opportunity at the end of each panel to ask questions. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the nature and substance of the agenda. Personal inference as to character or motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Now to begin our agenda. On Bill 102-37 COR, sponsored by myself, Senators Joanne Brown, Telo T. Taitague, Chris Barnett, and Christopher M. Dueñas, an act to add a new Article 2 to Chapter 2, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to reporting requirements on the use of unclassified employment. This public hearing is being held as a prime sponsor pursuant to Rule I-1A Rule 6, Part B of the Standing Rules. It states, all bills introduced by a member or committee shall be given a public hearing no more than 120 calendar days after the date of the bill's introduction. If the committee to which the bill has been referred to does not hold a public hearing within the 120-day calendar timeline, the committee chairperson shall give a reason in writing for not holding a public hearing, and the prime sponsor of a bill may hold the public hearing following written notification to the committee chairperson, and the hearing shall be transcribed by the prime sponsor. On August 19, 2023, a written notification from the committee chairperson on the Government Operations and Appropriations stated that due to the 120-day expiration happened during the 24 budget season, the committee was unable to identify a public hearing date for Bill 102-37. So I'd like to give some opening remarks regarding this bill. So we have some technical difficulties. We want to check to see if we're online still.
The other monitors are on.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still on. It's just we can't see this one.
Okay, so it looks like we're okay.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay, Bill 102 aims to increase transparency in our government in the hiring of unclassified workers by requiring reporting by all agencies, branches, instrumentalities, and public corporations of unclassified positions and classified positions occupied by an unclassified incumbent employee. The information that would be required are the following: the position's title, the position's pay grade and step, the salary, and the reasons why it is not practicable to use the merit system for such position. As is the case with the Guam's Organic Act, the merit system is a basis for selection and administration of the civil service system. Its intent is to hire the most qualified applicants for the jobs and to promote the hardest working and smartest workers. The Organic Act requires the legislature to create a merit system for government civil service and requires that the government of Guam use it wherever practicable. In legal terms, practicable means something is feasible or capable of being done, especially with the available means or with reason or prudence. It's often used in statutes to indicate when, how, or if something should be done. Transparency is always important when public funds are spent. We have open procurement processes in the Sunshine Act for public documents. We must also ensure that the government leaders are transparent when they opt to not use the merit system for hiring government workers. It is understandable the policy staff or elected officials should be employed only for the term of the office that the official is elected for. There are, however, many instances where individuals are hired for jobs that are normally held by classified employees, such as in accounting, finance, human resource, payroll, procurement functions. They're usually filled by classified employees, as should be, but in some agencies they're not. Many agencies have project or program coordinated positions filled by unclassified employees, and many agencies are filling positions previously held by classified employees with unclassified employees. Unclassified employment means that these employees need not compete for their jobs, and the appointing authority can hire them up to step 10 of their pay grade. The intent of this bill is not to eliminate unclassified employees, but to have agencies and their directors to be transparent and disclose why they believe that it is not practicable to fill such positions with classified employees pursuant to the merit system. I want to thank my co-sponsors, Senators Joanne Brown, Telo, Taitague, Chris Barnett, and Chris Dueñas. I look forward to testimony on this bill. A fiscal note was received, and it stated that it is administrative in nature and poses no fiscal impact upon the funds of the government of Guam. Currently, we did invite Director Byrne to provide testimony. He's not here today, but he did provide written testimony. And it basically, if I can read it into the record, it states that, if I could just paraphrase a couple points here, it says that DOE believes that such reporting is a unnecessary requirement. All agencies submit staffing patterns which show which positions are held by classified employees and which by unclassified employees. Staffing patterns are published quarterly on the government website, and they disclose employment and compensation information as well as vacant positions. DOA generally supports the principle of professional classified civil service. The COVID pandemic was a cause of a disruption to our normal hiring and employment practices. Positions had to fill quickly to provide services to the people of Guam that the pandemic rendered essential. We are now in the process of returning to normal. It goes on to state that DOA, recognizing the need, issued Circular 2024-44R, which is on their website, advising agencies that very specific conditions needed to obtain before non-competitive employment would be approved. That is the policy of DOA, and DOA is committed to processing applications in a timely, efficient manner. They monitor the actions of employing agencies to conduct interviews of listed candidates quickly so that vacant positions can be filled. So that is the gist of their testimony. Okay, and so being that there's no one here to provide testimony on the bill, I would like to open up the floor to my colleagues if they have any comments. But of course, we will still receive testimony. Senator Brown, if you have any comments at this time.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on this bill and certainly also serve as a co-sponsor. And I appreciate your efforts in moving this forward, because we actually found, as we've gone through the budget process, we're finding there are a number of positions of which individuals have been filling unclassified positions that traditionally has not always been the practice in the government of Guam. Normally in a government agency, the extent of the unclassified employee is the director, the deputy. In the case of there's actually a board or commission, they might have a board secretary that is unclassified. But we're finding in some agencies that could have 10, 20, 30 unclassified employees. And it's not the normal practice that these individuals be holding positions that are identified as for classified employees. And if it's so much the issue of the process of hiring, I think in what we've seen in the not too distant past is a really stretching the original intent of having unclassified positions. I myself have been a career unclassified employee, but I've served in leadership positions within these department and agencies, or as staff to the governor of Guam, or in this case, obviously, as a member of the Guam legislature, we're identified as unclassified individuals. And there's a time and a place for those type of positions. But when you're starting to get into the classified service where the type of work that's being performed is work identified under a classified position, then by all means, that should be how that position is filled. It should be filled by a classified employee that has gone through the merit process and has been selected to serve in that capacity. And I also, with you, Madam Chair, I'm curious at what is the current number of unclassified positions in the government of Guam within the department and agencies that traditionally would not be put in those positions to be filled. So I think to avoid any abuse, not just current abuse now, but in the future, I think these reporting requirements, I don't agree with the Director of Administration who's saying this is not necessary. I think it's something that should be required. If there's going to be any type of flagrant abuse, and by all means those numbers would show it. And then we would all be aware of whether or not this type of unclassified position status is being abused. And it's very concerning if that's the case, because for classified employees in government agencies, some of the complaints that I have heard, you may have heard them as well, is some individuals are brought in these capacities and are receiving higher salaries, far higher salaries than the individual as a classified employee occupying and performing the exact same duties. And that really does impact the morale. It impacts, I guess what people would say is proper compensation for the work that they're doing, because then it becomes politicized. Because you can pick anybody you want, whether they have credentials or not, whether they have experience or not, and put them in these positions to perform these duties simply because the administration has done so. And I don't think that really was the intent in terms of the workforce for the government of Guam, that ever was the intent, is to use these unclassified positions to avoid going through the merit process for those key positions that have already been identified in the staffing pattern as positions for classified employees. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to comment and certainly also serve as a co-sponsor on this bill. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator Brown. Senator Taitague, you're recognized if you have any comments at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. And for those who are listening today, I wish you well. And also like to thank the author of the legislation, Senator Perez, for allowing me also to be a co-sponsor of this legislation. And of course, moving forward with this. This legislation, I think when it was first introduced, the intent was to make it a little bit easier for those who are looking to find out who is being hired as unclassified. And a lot of times when we're in budget hearings and we're going through these documents, hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents, it's almost like a cat and mouse game to determine where exactly and what agencies are they hiring individuals that actually could possibly get a classified position because they're in that position for a certain amount of months and then later on has an extra point in order to get a classified position. It's about transparency. It's about being able to pinpoint these areas in the government, which is very unfair to the rest of the public, especially individuals who work very hard to get degrees, very hard to get the institutional knowledge or the experience needed for these positions that provide them a classified position in the government. And when you have unclassifieds being put in positions that would actually benefit them to get classified jobs is a huge issue. Huge. It's about transparency, accountability, but most of all for the people of Guam who expect it from this government to be fair and just. And I think that if Mr. Burns puts together information that he says on a quarterly basis, then I don't see a reason why this only twice a year to be provided to this body for transparency purposes. So other than that, Madam Chair, I thank you again for being a co-sponsor of this, and thank you for making sure that this government is accountable to the people of Guam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Taitague, and I appreciate the sentiments, which I concur with. I think it's really important that we provide a government where the workers are hired based on their merit. I think merit is, we need to stand up this merit system within our government. And, I agree that, it really hurts the morale of the current employees. I had an oversight with DRT, in fact, and a lot of the hires were non-competitive hires. And so that has repercussions. It has repercussions to the service of our community, right? What these agencies provide. If we do not stand up this merit system, it can affect the quality of service. And this is something that we need to really fix in our system. And I think too, this bill, although there is staffing patterns, what this bill does, it ensures that the director or those that are hiring provide a reason for going to the unclassified and hiring versus the classified service. And so, this bill is having its hearing. We'll still accept testimony, but we need to submit it back to the Committee on Operations. And will work with the Appropriations Chair and Government Operations Chair to hopefully get this bill out of committee so that it can be debated on the floor. And so, being that there are no other persons here to provide testimony on this bill, my office will continue to receive written testimony until November 5th, 4 p.m. On Tuesday. Please address all testimony to Senator Sabina Flores Perez, Chairperson of the Committee on Environment, Revenue and Taxation, Labor Procurement, Statistics, Research, and Planning. It can be dropped off the mailboxes here at the Guam Congress Building or emailed to office@senatorperez.org. The committee will now adjourn. The time is now 2:33 p.m. Situas Masi.